Hello.
So we are going to do a virtual training session tonight with some rats. Paula, tell us a little bit about why you have rats.
It's something I never thought I would have, especially at my house. So we have rats because we wanted to start offering barn hunt, which is a dog sport. And so we learned that we needed to get some rats, and we needed to get several of them. So we have 4 male rats, and they're probably close to about 9 or 10 weeks. No, probably not even that old. Under 9 weeks old.
They're super cute. So talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing with the rats so far. They recently moved from the facility to your house because of the health situation we're in. So what kind of things have you been doing with them?
Yes. So we've been doing a lot of handling and socializing because we want these guys to be super friendly. They're kind of mascots for our barn hunt. And we've also been doing some enrichment with them. Since they've been here, they haven't had as much. We've done a little bit with our little training bin here, but we would also put them into our big bathroom at the facility and let them run around and put different things out for them because we want them to have a very high quality of life. We feed them a variety diet so that they have variety that way as well. So we're just trying to build like that all around like CGC rat.
I love it. I love it. So we, tonight, we are going to be doing their first training session with the tube. So those of you who don't know, when dogs participate, yep, there we go. There's our tube. When dogs participate in barn hunt, they search for rats, and the rats are safely stored in those nice little tubes there. So the rats are kept safe and comfortable. So tonight we're going to start our first shaping session, teaching the rats how to get into the tube on cue. Now, I gave Paula some pre-homework last night and yesterday. She did a little bit. So talk to us about what you did yesterday.
So yesterday, per your instructions, I wanted to get them used to their new training environment because they'd never been in this big tub, and we did each of them individually. Of the 4 rats, we do have one that's very shy, so I didn't do as much with him. I try to respect who they are as individuals.
Yep.
And I let them explore, and I did some charging of the clicker as per my notes. So I would click and then give them a little taste of a special treat. I have a variety of treats that they like, and I just kind of saw what would they do for that.
Absolutely. And so some of them were a little bit more comfortable in the training space than others. And this was actually the first time that they had been alone. Is that right?
Yeah, it was something I didn't think about. You know, all of their time is either spent in their cage together or in an enrichment area together. And being an individual, that's a little weird for a rat.
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of what animal species you are training, we want to make sure that the training setup is comfortable for them, and we want to get them used to that environment as much as possible. So I gave Paula some instructions on setting up a training environment for them, and we decided, you want to go ahead and pan down for just a second?
Sure.
Yeah. We decided that this clear plastic bin would give a little bit of management. So the higher walls on it will help prevent the rat from...
Let me do this a little safer.
No problem. Those high corners will help prevent the rats from escaping, although we did find out that we've got some athletic and agile rats. So
yes, 2 of the 4.
We do also want to create a surface on the bottom that's soft and comfortable and has a little bit of traction, because we don't want the animals slipping around while they're trying to learn, right? We don't want to add any unnecessary stress for them. So that's how we'll help keep them a little bit more comfortable. And then yesterday, when they were exploring and getting used to this new space, getting used to the sound of the clicker, that tube was not in there. So it was just getting them used to being on their own, being in this new space, giving them a chance to kind of check it out, and then getting used to the clicker. So they had lots of new experiences yesterday, which hopefully will help make today just a little bit easier for them. A little less.
Apologize for all the movement. I don't know why, but I can't get it to sit just the way I had it a second ago.
It's because I made you move it. Not a problem at all. We can
see really well.
And if you guys have any questions, by the way, anybody who's watching and following along, you guys are more than welcome to post comments, and we will get to those. we are going to try to work through this just like we would work through any virtual coaching session with Paula and the rats as the learner. So do you have everything that you will need to get started? I see you've got your clicker on your lanyard. We've got our environment set up and then tasty treats. Awesome. Yeah.
And can you guys, you can see okay?
Yes, we can see. We can see.
So making sure you can see.
Yeah, no, we can see. It looks good. So our goal, we're going to run through this real quick. We are going to use a concept called free shaping. So this is where we are going to use the clicker to tell the rats what we want. Anytime they hear the sound of the click, it tells them, yes, that was correct. And then Paula will give them a treat for it. And we are clicking and treating small approximations or small steps in the direction of the right behavior. So the behavior that we want is for them to go into the tube, and we can put this on cue, and we haven't really discussed what our cue will be. Paula, do you know what you would like your cue to be? Do you want it to be verbal? Do you want it to be visual?
Probably both, I guess. I hadn't even thought about it. Do you have any recommendations?
It could do either. So it could be visual with the, the presentation of the tube as their cue, so that whenever you put the tube down, that's their cue to get inside. You could also put it on a verbal cue if you wanted, like inside or go to your room, something like that, so that they've got a verbal cue. I'm imagining we're not going to get to adding the cue today.
I agree based on what I saw yesterday.
Yep. But it's always a good idea to be prepared so that we know what the plan is. So up to you, Paula. What would you like?
Maybe just tube.
Okay, awesome. So our goal is to click and treat the rats for approaching the tube, stepping towards it, sniffing it, touching it, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. I sent Paula yesterday a shaping staircase that gave her the steps, so she knows exactly what she's clicking and treating for. And as she does this process with the rats, we're just going to kind of coach her through it and give her tips on how to improve this. So Paula, are you ready to get started?
I am. So I just want to go through and make sure I have it correct and kind of do a dry run without the rat, because they're going to be super fast.
Yes, I would be prepared for them to be fast. So we want to make sure that we're prepared.
So before we got started, we talked about setting the rat at the far end. Yep. And waiting for any approximation towards the tube. As soon as I see an approximation, I'm going to click, and I'm going to reward a little bit towards the tube. Is that correct?
Yep. So we want to click and treat any interaction, and it could be as small as them turning their head in that direction, or it could be as big as them taking a step towards it. That clickable moment will really depend on what the rat chooses to do in the moment. So just be prepared for even those small little looks. And then when we deliver the treat, we can deliver the treat between the rat and the tube to help encourage a little bit more motion. So as they step towards that treat and towards that tube, it gives you the opportunity to click and treat them again.
Okay, and I played around yesterday with delivering to their body or to the ground. Do you have a preference? They seem most comfortable like directly to them.
If that's what they're most comfortable with, then I'm totally okay with that.
Okay, we'll see what they tell us.
Yeah, and if we start, delivering to their mouth and something doesn't quite work out right, or we want to try dropping on the ground, we can always change it kind of in the moment. Okay,
sounds good. Are you ready for your first rat?
Yes. Who are we starting with?
All right. We're going to start with Dexter. He's an albino. I'm going to have to wake him up. They're kind of been snoozing over here. Oh, he's really sleepy. I'm actually going to start with Toby because he's awake.
Okay.
And now Dexter's waking up saying, wait a minute.
He's like, wait, is something happening?
Right. So this is Toby.
Oh, my goodness. Hi, Toby.
He's definitely the most outgoing initially and definitely a little piggy.
Well, that's good. Those are both good qualities to have.
Oh, yeah, he's very fast.
Yeah, you got a lot of motion there.
I did, and not a lot of space to work with.
Nope. Yep, nice job. So clicking and treating him for touching, for looking at it. Yep, nice. And I'm okay with clicking that too. Even though that's not the side we want him to enter, he's still choosing to interact with it. So that's a good thing.
So he's not eating a couple of the treats, so I'm switching to hot dogs.
Okay.
Pretty curious, but
No.
might be a moment.
Yep.
So, you want to try? That's
Look
awesome.
at you. Look at you.
Eat something? No, I will not.
He says, no, not hungry.
Always hungry.
Although I do like all that behavior. I wish he was eating so we could reinforce him for it, but
I know.
I like that curiosity.
To come up. Okay. He wants a break.
Okay, breaks are good. So whenever the learner asks for a break, we certainly want to respect that. So, you know, with him jumping up on her arms, that's a good indicator that he needs just a break, wants to connect with her for a moment, and that's totally fine. In dogs, you might see it as them, you know, checking out and going to do something else. They might come up and ask for affection. All of those would be indications that the learner is ready for a break. And breaks are very important.
All right, so I'm going to try him again.
Okay.
If not, I'll put him back in the cage for a break. Jump, kiddo. Here you go. What is this? Oh, that's so interesting. No.
I love how curious he is about that, though. That's a really good sign.
Yes, it's interesting he won't go all the way.
Uh-huh. Well, the other end of it is closed, so that could be a little scary for him, seeing that he can't get out the other side. But he's clearly not afraid of it because he's continuing to come back to the tube.
Yes.
And his choice to not want to eat could also be associated to stress of being alone, could also be associated to stress of the new environment. And we kind of talked about that before we started. It might take him a little bit of time to get used to being by himself and being in this new place.
Yes. All right. I think I'll go get Dexter and see if he wants to work. He definitely was the more willing of the two yesterday. Kiddo. All right, so here's our little friend Dexter, our little albino guy.
Hi, buddy.
I gotta get ready, kiddo.
If you want, before you put, oh, never mind. Before you put him down, if you want to see if he'll take a treat from you while he's with you.
Okay.
Kind of warm him up on a cookie before he goes in the new space.
He's like, nah. They don't eat a ton when I hold them. They definitely eat in their cage more.
Okay. Look at him crawling all over you.
I know. They're very comfortable with that. Oh, he went right to it. Okay, bye.
Nice job, buddy. Are your treats small enough that you could drop them through those holes?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. So, you know, ideally, assuming that they were eating, once they get completely inside the tube, I would click and drop the treat in. He says, no, I just want to explore. Thank you.
Thank you for my new house.
Yeah.
I'll try some of their puffs that they like. See if that makes a difference. No.
Says, I'm not feeling it. So, and this can happen with learners of all kinds, right? We get ready for a training session and they decide that they're not feeling it. Again, could be environmental stress for him, could be being alone because they're not very comfortable with being alone. So they might need a little bit more conditioning of the training space. And he was very confident about walking right in. So I almost wonder if you could, you know, maybe next time we do this, not ideal for people that are watching, but maybe pick a time for them when they're a little bit hungry, you know, before a mealtime. We can kind of structure it so that we can work together before a meal when we know that they're going to be a little bit hungrier, a little more eager to work.
Right. And that's also a big learning curve because sometimes they're more active. Yeah. Right now, Toby's beating up on Dwight, if you hear any little noises. Toby's kind of the boss of the crew.
And you said generally they prefer to take treats out of your hand versus in the environment. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Especially him, because he definitely has some vision issues. Oh, he grabbed the treat and brought it out.
Oh, good boy.
So he's eating over in the corner.
Excellent.
Yeah. And he was definitely the more comfortable with this setup yesterday.
Okay. And what treat was he eating?
I don't know. They're both the same color, so I'm not positive which one. It sounded crunchy, so it sounds like one of these Gerber puffs. I'll just try one without clicking and see. Like, I'll just climb this.
Clearly not stressed about that tube, though, which is really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was not in his training setup yesterday.
Nope. I've never seen it before. And I guess what you can do, if this wasn't painted, we have some coming to us when we're allowed to see our clients again, that isn't painted, that you can let them hang out in their cage. But because it's painted, we didn't want them to have it in their cage if they were to start.
So they don't need it. Yep.
So he's fine living in there.
And he is, and I have seen your setup. I know a lot of people watching maybe haven't seen your setup, but they, in their little house, they have lots of areas that they can kind of burrow. And so it's already a little bit of a natural behavior for them to want to be inside things for a protection purpose, kind of like how some dogs really enjoy being denned in a crate. So what you could do if you put that in their cage with them would be to put some food in there. And so daily enrichment activity, almost like the snuffle mat for dogs, you could sprinkle some food in there so that they get reinforced every single time they go in. And you could either leave it in there all the time or just use it as an enrichment thing that goes in, they experience it for a short amount of time, and then it comes back out.
So I did hear him eating while you were talking. So he's eating the little Gerber puffs. They're blueberry flavored. They like these.
Nice. Excellent. So
I can't see it, but I can hear him.
I can kind of see him. Oh yeah, he's holding it. So what I do, let's see if we can get him moving in and out of that tube a little bit. So when he goes in, click and treat. Okay. And then I will almost drop one outside of the tube to get him back out so that you can then set him up for another repetition of going back in.
Okay. So he gets paid both ways.
Exactly. So we just ignore that behavior because that's not the behavior we're trying to shape.
For sure not.
And if he moves back towards the entry, you could even click and treat him for that.
He might be looking for something. These do smell good.
So I would even click that. Yep. There, and click again. He's so cute. I can just see his tiny little head.
Yeah, he is the smallest of the four. I think he's the youngest.
You know, and if he chooses to stay in there with that much duration, you could pay him for that again.
Okay. You want me to click or just pay?
Yep, click and treat. Because what we will be shaping for is entrance into the tube with a little bit of duration, because we will need him to stay in there while you put the cap on. Right. So now that he's finished that cookie, I would go ahead and drop a treat outside in front of it. Yep. So that we can encourage him to come back out of the tube. Good boy. This is not good for the cookie, but I did come out. And then if he makes his way back towards the entrance of the tube, click and drop a treat in frnt of him. Oh, good boy.
He said, where did it go? Very nosy.
And the more comfortable they get too with treat delivery, the easier this exercise will be, because all of this is still pretty new to them.
Yes.
Nice. Click. And drop that cookie in. He's got a butt to us right now. When you're practicing this at home, it might be easier for you, Paula, to set it up sideways so that you can see the entrance of the tube. And then if you're looking at his butt, you can drop a treat through the hole at the closed end.
Gotcha.
There, nice. Now he's coming back out. So now if he makes his way back towards the entrance of the tube or even enters it, you'll click and treat him again.
You're very creative.
There, yep, nice.
It's hard to beat him to it.
There, and click and treat again because now he's inside of it. Awesome. How long do you generally work them? Because I know for dogs, we like to keep sessions short, 2 to 3 minutes at a time, and then give them a break.
Time kind of flew by yesterday, so some of them it was like a minute, others were hanging out in here for 6 minutes. It wasn't constantly working though.
Right.
And sometimes it was like in and then, oh, you're not comfortable, out. Okay, back in. He still hasn't found that one.
No, I know, I can see it. He's going to try escaping out that corner again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So if he makes his way back towards that entrance, even if he doesn't go all the way in, I would click and treat him.
Okay. So
that we're encouraging interaction around the mouth of that tube versus all the edges of your training area. There, and click and treat again because now we're all the way inside. So we're clicking and treating his choice to get near the entrance of the tube and for going inside, making that area of the training environment a better place for him to be than all of the edges.
Okay. I almost felt like he was peeking out to say like, okay, where's the next?
Where's the next cookie? I can smell it. So he's hanging out in there. I almost wonder if you should kind of pick that treat up that's on the towel and drop it again so that he can see it. Oh, he's coming for it.
He said, hey.
He's like, don't take my food. There. And if he turns around and starts making his way back towards the entrance of the tube, you can click and treat. Yes, nice. Oh, and now we're inside again, so you can click and treat that. That's his butt. So again, I think that's why it would be, when you're practicing on your own over the next week, practice from the side of the tube so that you can see where his head is and then strategically drop the treat either through the top or through the entrance.
It cracks me up. He still hasn't found that temptation one out there.
Oh, he almost went back in right away. Yep, so we're ignoring unwanted behavior.
He'll just climb me. He won't care. The others are being super crazy, so that might be part of his distraction too.
He can probably hear them wrestling.
Oh,
buddy.
I'm going to help you a little bit, kid.
There we go. All right, so if he makes his way back towards the entrance of that tube, go ahead and click and treat. There we go. Nice. Yep.
I switched up the treat just to see if that's of interest.
There, all the way in. Let's click and treat.
It's funny just to see his tail sticking out.
Yeah, it is from this angle as well. I like how he's just sitting there. He's sitting there. Can you hear him munching on treats?
I do. I had to listen really carefully because he's so quiet.
There we go. Just moving around in there. Probably finding those other cookies. Oh, there he goes.
Here's things. I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, he turned around and went back in. It's like the cookies fall from the sky when I go in here.
That's a good thing.
Nice. That is a good thing. That's what we want. But it makes it hard to put on cue if he just chooses to go in and stay.
True.
We need him moving in and out, grooming himself a little bit. When you took breaks with them yesterday, did you put them back in with each other to give them a break?
Yes.
Do you want to go ahead and try to give him a break? Because we've been working him for a couple minutes now. And we can try Toby again. Just like with any learner, if we work them too long, then they start to get tired, and then we can see a decrease in the quality of behavior that we're getting. So, you know, generally for dogs, we work 2 to 3 minutes at a time and then give them a break just so that their brain can kind of refresh and reset. So we can, now that Toby has been in the environment already again today, maybe this next round he'll be a little bit more comfortable.
All right, I guess we're gonna miss 2 minutes. I was busy beating up everyone, so.
Nice.
Oh, good. He took it.
Excellent.
Oh, there, he's eating it now. Guess I didn't have the right treats ready before. Busy.
Yep. Checking out his new environment. Nice. Good boy.
Maybe it'll help that the other rat was in here.
Uh-huh. Can smell him.
Yep.
Nice. Good job, bud.
I don't know that he was eating those since he's done so quickly. Try this. Oh, that's good.
There we go.
Oh, didn't eat that. I did take it.
That one he was on the ground with a second ago?
Yep. Now we all know how to jump rope. Who knew you needed a giant tub for small animals? Nice.
Nice. Good job.
Like, that's super fun.
He's like, I would rather go out that way.
Nice. Oh.
Yep. Good timing on that one. Catching him before he, did he eat that?
He did.
Okay.
He's eating the homemade dog treat now.
There we go. Yep. Good timing. So I'm glad that he's eating. If he were not eating, I would say let's give him a break again because he's continuously climbing up. But since he is eating, let's see if we can just increase rate of reinforcement for 4 on the floor on the towel.
Okay.
Because even, right, even that is better than climbing up the edges. So if we can keep him on the towel, then we're keeping him on the ground, keeping him closer to that tube. Now he's eating.
He likes the treats.
Yep. Nice. And since he is further away from the entrance of the tube, yeah, click and then deliver that treat closer to that entrance. Yes. Nice. Good timing. Yes, good boy. Really nice. Excellent. Look at that. exciting. So he might need a break. And that's okay. We can, if you want, we can pull Dexter out again and work with him for another couple minutes. And while we are kind of on a break here, we do have a question from Rachel. Is there any benefit to just letting them explore for a few minutes on their own and then work or starting to train, or just jumping right into training like we've done here? That's a really good question. And I would say that there are multiple correct answers to that. We did get them used to the environment yesterday. So this isn't the first time they've been in this space. And yesterday, Paula let them explore in the environment on their own, individually and together. And then she did some charging of the clicker in the space too. So even though it's not the first time they've been in this space, it obviously is quite a big change for them being on their own and kind of being in this new place to work. So yeah, if we put them in this space, we could certainly let them roam around and explore for a couple minutes before starting to work. The one thing I would say is that I wouldn't have the tube in there if we're letting them just explore. So then, you know, the visual presence of that tube can start to become a signal to them that we're working, and then we could start to shape. Because if we just put them in the space with the tube and they start to interact, then we would need to be training with it. So yes, we could certainly put them in the space and start working right away. Or if you want to let them explore in the environment, then I would give them a little time to explore without that tube. And then the moment you put that tube in, then immediately be prepared to start working with them.
Chelsea, can you give a dog example, since a lot of people probably are dog people?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I have, let's say I've got a training room that I'm going to work on and I want to shape my dog how to enter into a crate, I would actually either collapse the crate or put the crate, you know, covered so the dog can't really see it, let them explore the environment, then uncover the crate and then start shaping them to go inside. If I wanted to work on settle on a mat, I would make sure the mat is off the ground, either on a couch or on the other side of a baby gate, let them explore around that environment first. Because our dogs are a little bit more connected to us than people are, I even would do a warm up of attention before I start working on an activity. And it's just a nice way to kind of let them absorb the environment around them and then get them warmed up on a skill that they know that helps them focus on us before we start working on an activity. That was a great question, Rachel. All right, are we ready to work, Mr. Dexter?
I'm ready. Good job with the names. I have to think about it a lot of times to figure out, who are you?
I did write it down, full disclosure. It's written.
Well, we only named one of the four, so we're trying to remember everyone's name.
Oh, good job, bud. He's like, my house. Nice. So I would click and drop the treat closer to you.
Okay.
Because if you can see that tail, then I'd like to drop the treat closer to his face. Can you see the tail from the angle you're at?
Yes.
Okay. So if you see that, then I would just drop the treat through a hole on the top.
And I can see his body, something's here.
That's his face.
I see white, that's all I see.
And is that a pile of treats on the ground in front of the tube there?
Yes, actually it is.
So yeah, I'd maybe clean that up just a little. I'm okay with a treat being in the learning space to help encourage him to come back out, because then it sets you up for another rep, but I would put it a little bit further from the tube.
Should I go ahead and place one so he comes out?
Yes, I would. He's grooming himself. There you go.
Got to look good for the camera.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me. He kicked it completely out of the way, like accidentally.
So if he turns back towards the tube at all, yeah, click. Nice. There. Good job. Yes, good boy. And click. Oh, and you see a tail? So I would drop the treat through the top.
Okay.
So as soon as he finishes munching on that and turns around, now I would click the behavior of inside the tube, but deliver your treat in the learning environment. Yep. So then you're reinforcing inside the tube. Crafty little bugger.
He's like, well, you want me in here, right?
You, buddy, but we want you coming out. There we go.
Found his other treat.
Yep, excellent timing. Nice, good job, bud. And click and treat that. Good treat delivery, nice. There you go, bud.
Kind of sniffing around looking for some more.
He's like, did I leave any crumbs? Nice. It's so funny how they sit when they're munching on those treats. In their front feet.
They're more mindful about eating than I am.
So after he spins around in that tube and his face is pointing towards the opening, you can click and then drop a treat in front of the tube to encourage him to come out.
Okay. Kind of watching through the side hole here to see if I can see it.
From this angle, they look really small, so I'm impressed that you can do that. So I would go ahead and click there. There. Yep. So the click will reinforce him for being inside the tube, but then we can use that treat delivery to help encourage him to come back out, because if we have him out, then we can start shaping him to go back in. We've got a little comment here from Rosemary. So this is to help them be fine with being inside the tube. And that's correct. This is accomplishing a couple things. One, we're going to use this training to teach them to go inside the tube on cue so that we can ask them to go in. And also, of course, this is conditioning them, right? They're earning good things for being inside a space. So it helps them get comfortable and confident in there as well. Just like giving a Kong to a dog in a crate helps turn the crate into a positive place for them.
I feel like I see his face. Can you see him?
I do see him, yep.
Okay.
Nice. And this is already better than the first time he was out here.
I mean, this is pretty much like you would train a zoo animal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
More cleaning time. Ooh, everybody's thirsty today.
Look at that, though. He's pretty consistently going in there. Anytime he's making his way towards the tube, he is entering it.
Mm-hmm. And he's coming all the way down here. I can see his body come down here.
Nice. Good timing.
He's got other ideas.
He says, I might be done.
You might need a water break. Here you go.
Let's go ahead and give him that. And let's sit and chat for a minute between critters.
Between the rat boys. So, Chelsea, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What other animals can you click or train? Not you, but in general.
You can click or train anything that eats. As long as they eat, you can marker train them. So if they can't hear, you can use a flashlight or a laser to mark the behavior. You can also mark with a visual signal like a thumbs up. We've done that for some of the deaf dogs that we work with. But you can click or train anything as long as they eat. So you mentioned zoo animals. They train zoo animals for, no restraint and no sedation blood draws so that they can do animal husbandry on them, brushing their teeth, trimming their feet. So as long as you have something that your learner wants to eat, then you can clicker train them, which I think is pretty cool. It's, as long as you apply the learning principles correctly, you can train anything, which is awesome. We've got one question for you here, Paula. I think you'll be able to answer this better than me. Rosemary also asked, how do you get them used to other dogs? So you have dogs in the house. Have your dogs been around the rats at all?
They have not. The only dog that these rats have seen is Hannah's dog, Linus.
Okay.
He just happened to walk down the hallway at the building. We normally, I keep this door behind me shut. At the facility, we keep them in a separate room because we don't want any dogs to all of a sudden freak out on them, for either of them to have a bad experience. They're actually really resilient. That's what I've noticed with them. We had to give them medication after the first week of having them, and it was not restraint free. And it was shocking how we didn't go backwards in our handling. They were still willing to come out and interact with us, even though we were putting a syringe in their mouth and squirting medication in there. So I think they'll be pretty resilient because they'll be in the tube and they'll be safe.
Yep.
Some people do introduce them in a very hard wire container. I've never done that before, so I don't have any experience to speak on that.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things too that we can watch for as they start getting used to being in the tubes for longer periods of time would be if their eagerness to enter the tube changes at all, right? Because that could give you insight as to how comfortable they felt with the dog sniffing them or hearing the barking sounds. And so if we started to see a little bit of decrease in eagerness and excitement to go into that tube where initially we did see lots of eagerness from them, then we would want to work through, some other training plans to help make sure that they were comfortable with the process. So let's review what we worked on today real quick with you. So initially the first session for both of them, we had a little bit of potentially stress with being in a new environment, being away from their friends. And you mentioned today too, that they were also super tired. So maybe a little asleep still, not at their most active moment. So I think environment setup, I liked that approach in terms of the tube with the towel and the tunnel. How did you feel about delivering treats in that setup?
I think it was good. If we weren't demonstrating, as you mentioned, I would definitely have the tube where I can see the rat. We did it for everyone else to see. Yep. I think if I'm going to work on rats, I would have to get taller.
Yep, taller bins. Yeah. I think too that if we do this again too, that we could just have the camera facing you. So have you on one side and the camera on the other so that we could see you and the rats then, and then you could see the rats. Delivering the treats, was that okay for you to drop them in the hole of the tube?
Yes, it just makes me think about what kinds of treats and then the size that I cut them in. Yep. Because the hot dogs were more difficult to get in versus a drier treat.
Yep. And I liked that you had lots of options today, because as we saw, there was definitely a preference in the treats. So doing yeah, and that happens with all learners. Like it happens with our dogs all the time, right? Where we start to work on something and maybe they don't really want what we have. So I like that you had a variety of treats prepared so that if they stopped wanting something or didn't want something to start, then you had another option. Is there anything that you felt uncomfortable with about the shaping process that we need to review?
No, I don't think so. I think they got breaks when they needed to. I feel like we listened to them. Yep. Because I don't want to stress them out. But I think they had a pleasant time, especially Dexter.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and you could see even a change in them from session 2 to session 1, even though they only had a short break between. It got easier for them and they were taking the treats much better. So I think that each time you do it, it's going to get easier. Homework. I'd like you to do this once a day with them. And because you have so many to work with, you could certainly just pick Dexter and Toby and kind of start the process with them so that you can keep momentum going. The other thing that you could do is rotate on an every other day plan. Do you have 5 of them?
4.
4. So you could do, Dexter and Toby today, and then tomorrow you'd work through the same process with the other 2, and then go back and forth, like an A day and a B day. And then that way each rat is getting a little bit of work in. Rachel Emery said they are way different late at night. Would be interesting to see how that shifts training. So do you find that they're more active in the evening?
But yes, and especially the last 2 days. Mm-hmm. They've been extremely, like, so much so that I only open up one side of the cage. I can show you guys the cage in a moment, but because I'm concerned that they're all going to come out at the same time. They've just been more active, and they've definitely been eating really, really well. Okay. I would say the last few days they've just been, and maybe they're growing since they're still very young. Yep.
And how often are you feeding them?
Just in the evening. They always have their little rat kibble. So that's make sure they have plenty of that throughout the day, and then they get their fresh food and any kind of snacks at the end of the day.
Okay. So maybe you could be strategic too about how you set up training sessions, setting it up before you provide all those fresh things for them to forage at night. So that way it's during a time when they're probably a little bit hungrier because they're used to eating at that time. And then they're a time where they're most active. So you're most likely to get more movement from them, making it easier for you to click and treat that motion into the tube.
Okay, I can definitely give it a try.
Do you want to show us your rat house real quick?
Sure. It's a little messy. I haven't cleaned it this afternoon. So it's hard to do it this way. Back it up. Trying to like maneuver. So this is their cage. Set it here maybe. And they have 2 stories. There's just 4 of them. Like I said, they're still young.
Yep.
So this is Dwight. And then Toby's hanging out in his little cage there. Mm-hmm. They really like the zebra print the best. They don't spend a lot of time in here unless they're just goofing off.
Okay.
But otherwise, they get their food primarily up here, and snacks come from hands. So they will all come to the bottom and ask for their snacks.
Nice. Very nice.
And they definitely want their dessert before their dinner.
Okay. Dessert before dinner. Well, you can use that to your advantage and train them for dessert.
Yes, and it's something to learn that you have to be just really patient with them because they aren't dogs, and they have different needs than a dog would.
They have different needs, and they're going to work at a different pace than we're used to with other dogs. And so you want to make sure that you're having realistic expectations and every single day kind of evaluating your training session based on the rat in front of you versus the one we had yesterday, because every day they're going to be a little bit different. But I would recommend trying to play around with the time of day that you practice with them so that we can see if them being more active in the evening has a positive impact on the progress of your training sessions.
Okay, I can do that.
Awesome. Any questions for me before we close out here?
No. Is there anything that you want me to change at this point besides just trying at a later time?
Yep. So I would try at a later time. I would also work them for those higher value treats before they get, the finished product of their dinner. That way our learner is hungry and eager to work. And then the only other training setup I would change at this point would be your proximity to the bin so that it's easier for you to see where the rats are and deliver that treat. So if they are tail out of the tube, you can click and drop your treat into the back side of the tube through one of the holes on the top. And if they are facing forward, you could click and just drop that treat right to them. And we want to work and get to the point where it's very easy for them to move in and out of the tube before we would start to add any kind of verbal cue for them. So we're a few sessions away from that. But I would like you to record your training sessions over the next couple of days so that we can track progress and see how they're doing. And then maybe we can do another one of these when they are ready to add a cue so that we can work through that process as well. All right. So a quick reminder, oh, look at the fat babies.
This is right. He's my favorite. Oh, and there was something else I was going to say, Chelsea, that I didn't think about really quick, about stress. I've noticed since we have handled them a lot, when we first got them, they would potty on us, and now they don't. And so I'm also noticing if they're pottying a lot in a new environment, that might be another sign of stress, or I didn't let them eliminate before I took them out.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and the more you're around them, picking up on those small signals, you know, when they were climbing on top of the tube and crawling up the side of the plastic, that could happen for a variety of reasons. It could happen because they see you and they want to come to you. Could happen because they are smelling the food that's on the other side of that tube. Can also be like a tap out. They're stressed and they're trying to find an escape route. So the more you're around them and the more you're learning their communication signals, the easier it's going to be for you to make those training decisions and decide when they need a break and when it's okay for them to keep going.
Yes, and that's a lot to learn.
It is a lot to learn because it's a whole another species. Fortunately, your experience with dogs should help you pick up on that a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about virtual training real quick, because that's a service that you offer as well. We, especially now with the uncertain times we're in, we're trying to keep everybody safe, our clients, our own families. And so we're doing a lot of social distancing and keeping away from people a little more than we're used to, because we're used to doing a lot more in-person stuff. But talk to me a little bit about your virtual coaching and what clients can expect to get out of that.
Well, it would be very similar to what we just did today. It's definitely a learning curve for the student because you have to move the camera around, as you saw. It was a little awkward, but we use Zoom to do our virtual sessions. I've done a couple of follow-ups that way, and it's worked out really nice because then the whole family can be there. They tend to be about an hour, and we just work on whatever you need to work on, primarily things like, you know, my dog's still not settling in the crate, or, you know, polite greeting. And this is great for people, obviously, who aren't near our general area. But right now it's great for everybody because we can't come see you in person. Like you were supposed to come train the rats.
I know. And now I can't for a little while. But I'm still helping you, so it's still good. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges that people see or maybe fear, like you said, is the technological component of it. You know, they're stressed about the setup, but really it's for us, it's no different than when we're doing those in-person stuff, because we're still going to do it the same way, coaching you through something verbally and letting you do the hands-on work so that you get the skills. And then you'll get notes afterwards, just like a normal session, so that you can keep caught up on your homework, and we'll help you troubleshoot that way too. So that's virtual coaching is something that we offer for our clients as well, whether you're nearby and we just can't see you right now, or if you're a little further outside of our training area. So if you guys are in need of some virtual coaching, please feel free to reach out to either Paula at Canine Country Academy or myself, and we would be happy to get you guys started no matter where you are in your training journey. Any closing thoughts from you, Paula?
No, this was fun. Thank you for doing it. I wish you were here instead, but this will work for now.
I know it will work for now. So let's keep me posted on how things are going with them. I'll send you some feedback, takeaway notes from today. And then when they're kind of at that next step in the training process, we will go ahead and set another one of these up so that we can kind of coach everybody through that next stage. All right.
Sounds good. Hope everybody enjoyed.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.